The time zone. And a happy birthday to all of those around the world. Today is a new type of stream. To try things out. Reading all of the books that they've added in 3.5 update for Honkai Star Rail. Little background as to why I'm doing it this way is because I have made 465 videos over the past year and a half, or I guess however long it's been since I started making it. Probably going on 2 years. Not exactly 2 years, but and I started doing it because I was wanting to read the videos, or read the books anyway. And I figured I can make some videos on it. Maybe people will enjoy that. and you know, they get solid views, but one thing that everyone always wanted was the location of the books, and so with Amphorius, start of Amphorius, I started including that in the videos. But the one thing, yes, after almost 500 videos, I've realized that, man, making videos is a lot of work. Work that I don't particularly enjoy. So, to the point where, for Amphorius, I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish the Amphorius arc. I'll continue to do the stuff for the Amphorius arc. But after the Amphorius arc, I don't know what I'm gonna do. The editing, yeah, editing videos sucks. I've gotten better at it, but it still takes a lot of time. And then the Amphorius arc kept going. And I hit the wall. I hit the wall with 3.5. So, I still want to read the books. And people probably still want the location, especially since, like, I've mentioned before, I am kind of one of the first person to post, like, the location of the books on the interwebs. The wiki is usually not updated by the time I'm posting stuff. So, out right now is a video detailing the location of all 8 books. I will still make that. But in terms of reading them, we're going to try and fit it into a stream. Because the reading is what takes the most editing. And one thing that I really started to kind of miss, I guess, when it comes to the reading is that I don't get to talk about it to anyone. Like, I read it and like, oh, this is cool, but I don't actually get to talk about it. And if you watch the streams, you know sometimes I'll be like, okay, guys, before we, like, it's been a month, but like, let's talk about this old book from last update. So if we're doing it live, we can talk about it too. There are 8 books. I can probably get through all 8. I'm going to try to. In future updates, depending, you know, this might take a couple streams. The first update of every arc has like dozens of books, so that definitely would have to be multiple streams. But 8 books should be fine. Now, not every book is going to be lore filled. Some books are just padding and are nonsense, so there's not going to be much to talk about always. And maybe none of them will be interesting, but hopefully some of them at least will give us something interesting. I did read some of them already before I crashed out. I did read some of them, but I haven't read all of them. But we'll read all of them again. Bam. And since I'm logging in, we might as well get through this login stuff real quick. The one thing that will be missing, but I'm gonna try and emulate. Also, there was an update today, probably a bug fix or something. I don't know. The one thing I'm gonna try and emulate is that in the videos, I always put a song in the background from the game, of the new update, or of actually of the arc in general, not the new update, but Amphorius music for the Amphorius arc. And I always try and match the songs to fit the vibe of the story. Now, I can't really do that part because I haven't read them yet. But I can still play Amphorius music if I go to the Astral Express, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if the music player actually... Where is the music player? I'm not sure if the music player swaps through songs, or if we can make it swap through. If we can't make it swap through, well, that's a shame. I don't think it ever does, because yeah, I've been listening to that same song for a while now. Maybe we'll just have to, not that one. Find one that to listen to. That isn't intrusive. That's her song. That's Hylison's song. I listen to Proi Proi, but it's probably intrusive and also probably copywritten. I do get flagged sometimes when like Robin songs pop up on the game. Don't recognize all their names. We'll do Homeland for now. All right. We're starting off with the Imperator War Chronicles 10 Legendary Campaigns, a biography compiled by the scribe Prudentia after extensive research, detailing 10 of the most iconic battles in Imperator's military career. Sounds good. I think this is the longest one of the update. And not just because it's 2 parts, but also it's long. Volume 1. History Investigator Prudentia's Manuscripts. She stormed through the annals of history like a gale, reshaping the destiny and form of Amphorius with fire and strategy, known to the world as Imperator. Ceridra wore the crown of flame and commanded legions across the Olanus highlands, the plains of Styxia, and the mountains of Epos. Driven by near-delusional ambition and greed, she overthrew even the Titans from their divine thrones. Her chessboard was all-encompassing. Her tactics extended beyond formations to hearts, time, and destiny itself. From the deadlock siege of Akima's double ramparts, the do-or-die gambit on the Tratos plain, the Imperator transformed every narrow victory into a cornerstone of her power. and in turn forged that power into a blade that knew no equal. It was in Akuma that she sparked a new era, where the edge of her sword no longer pointed at the flame-chasing frontiers, but toward the horizon cradling the dawn. From her first emergence in Light Calendar 3851 to the capture of Yanisopoulos in 3980, the Imperator launched more than 20 campaigns and personally led over 80 crucial battles. Her defeats were so rare they could be counted on a single hand, an awe-inspiring record. Among them, 10 battles stand out for their far-reaching historical impact, encapsulating the Imperator's military doctrine and her mastery of warfare. The following pages recount these battles to honor her legacy and to serve as a beacon for those who will lead armies in the future. During the War for the Crown, from Light Calendar 3851 to 3910, the Imperator rose from an obscure leader to gathering talents from every corner, expanding her forces, laying siege to strongholds, and tightening her grip on military might. History would see her ascend to the very apex of authority, not only in Akuma, but across all of Amphorius. These decades-long military career, for clarity and to distinguish it from the Flame Chase journey, is referred to herein as the War for the Crown. Number 1. The Liberation of Locus. Or Lucas? Or Locas? Who knows? Time, Light Calendar 3851. Location, Lucas Plains. Key General, Saridra. Before the liberation of Locas, the world knew only that Hyperborea had a young princess, but knew not the name of Saridra. Early in 3850, Akuma's spies in the northern territories reported that Hyperborea was faltering as a country. Its people in despair, the royal court had emptied its treasury to raise a host of mercenaries, intending to send with the princess southward to launch an assault on the holy city. Akuma braced for impact, stationing forces at 2 major choke points, but the Hyperborean army never came. Meanwhile, in the northeastern reaches of Amphorius, the land of Locas was gripped by a sweeping rebellion. The uprising sought to overthrow the brutal tyrant and reclaim freedom for its people. But the tyrant's enforcer, a ruthless, golden-blooded general named Fortunato, led 50,000 elite troops and crushed the rebels like waves swallowing sparks. As the resistance was driven into a peninsula with no escape, an elite force descended upon the battlefield from the west. A young girl, calling herself the Imperator, led the charge and came to set Locus free. At the time, the Imperator's forces numbered barely 20,000. After 2 brutal clashes with Fortunato's army, her left flank exposed a fatal weakness. Sensing this moment, Fortunato personally led his superior forces in a direct assault on her exposed flank, unaware it was a trap designed to lure him away from his main formation. 3,000 hidden troops surged from Fortunato's rear like a storm from the heavens, raining fire-tipped arrows to throw his ranks into chaos. The Imperator's right wing seized the breach, coordinating a lethal thrust that split the Locus army at its core. Thus victory followed like a falling banner. After the battle, Fortunato was captured and beheaded without delay. The tyrant of Locus escaped by sea to Hattusili, a small kingdom southeast of Styxia, while the rebel forces throughout the land rallied under the Imperator's banner. Back then, no one in Amphorius suspected that the Imperator was actually Hyborea's puppet princess. Who would believe a young woman would dare lead an army across the Epos Mountains from Hyboria to Lokas, just to gamble on gaining her first troops. Well, now we know where she's from. Hyperborea. Also, leading her army across mountains, I feel like, is a reference to Hannibal, maybe. Number 2, the First Siege of Akama. Time, Light Calendar 3867. Location, Akama. Key Generals, Saridra, Isolans. In Light Calendar 3867, malicious plots led to the unjust execution of 3 Akama generals. The military descended into chaos outside the walls while panic spread among citizens within. The Tyrant of Lokas, leading combined forces from Ikaria and Corinth, raided the Holy City. Their ranks included formidable Chrysos heirs who breached 5 defensive positions effortlessly. Even the typically honorable Kremnoan army couldn't resist the opportunity. There were mobile fortresses positioned nearby like predators watching wounded prey. The Holy City's fate hung by a thread. The most dramatic event unfolded at this pivotal moment. The Tyrant of Lokas' worst nightmare returned. A strike force entered the city from the west, led by a young woman who introduced herself as Saridra. Unlike their encounter more than a decade before, the Imperator now commanded tremendous respect throughout Amphorius, with legendary generals at her command. Dux Fragorius Labinius, Dux Brumalis Seneca, and most formidable of all, Dux Gladiorum Isolans. Isolans created bloody tides through enemy formations with just a single sword, while softly humming the funeral march. The siege of the Holy City ended in just half a day. The Lokas and Ikaria tyrants fell into captivity, while the Corinth tyrant fled with his battered forces south of the Dolos Plains. From her vantage in the majestic Marmoreal Palace, the Imperator surveyed the mountains of fallen soldiers and rivers of blood in the city below, and whispered words that would echo through history. I came, I saw, I conquered. I wonder how the Tyrant of Lokas got his army back if she conquered it before. But it's funny that she keeps messing with his plans. Number 3, the Kampa Expedition. Time, Light Calendar 3874. Location, Kampa Mountains. Key General, Seneca. Around Light Calendar 3865, Aquila's unpredictable climate threw Amphorius into chaos, with alternating floods and droughts devastating harvests continent-wide. While most nations watched their power diminish, the Imperator, having heeded Tribios' prophecies, was fully prepared. She expanded her control over the territories surrounding Akama in those years, intending to establish her authority throughout Amphorius. Soon, all states pledged fealty to her except the proud Castrum Kremnos and Skyfolk, leaving the Imperator of the Marmoreal Palace without power, or without equal in power or prestige. In Light Calendar 3870, Seleuci slayed Aquila, causing the last Sky Fortress to vanish into the clouds and marking the Skyfolk's decline. Without their main adversary, Castrum Crimnos turned its blade to Akama, forcing the Imperator to concentrate on this threat, which weakened her control over other regions. By light calendar 3874, Kampa, relying on its remote location and the Kampa Mountains as its stronghold, openly rebelled against the Akama alliance. Watching other states grow increasingly restless, the Imperator kept resisting the Kremnoans while secretly sending Dux Brumalis Seneca with 30,000 elite troops into the Kampa Mountains. Akama had already formed a secret alliance with Leyden, Kampa's ancient, with Ladonian guides who knew the terrain intimately. The mountain barriers that the Campanians considered impregnable proved no more substantial than paper walls. In just one night, Dux Brumalis, unfazed by the bitter northern cold, captured the Campanian capital with her forces. That same evening, the Landonian leader predictably turned traitor, only to be immediately subdued by the well-prepared Dux Brumalis. That was a dumb decision. The Imperator had foreseen that the Landonians, fearing they would be next to fall, would inevitably betray their temporary allies after victory. She had planned for this treachery from the start, eliminating two threats with a single move. The Landon guy was very outspoken at the meeting during the main story. I think she killed him, didn't it? Yeah, Hycelin's killed him. Number 4, the Great Battle of Tratos Plains. Time, Light Calendar 3903, location Tratos Plains, key General Labienus. The war between Akama and the Kremnoans stretched on without end. Though the Imperator was a masterful tactician, military strategy had its limits. The Kremnoans, with their exceptional individual fighting skills and remarkable cohesion, bolstered by virtually invulnerable Titankin shock troops, often lost smaller engagements to clever tactics, yet successfully kept Akama's forces from making meaningful advances in the war itself. By light calendar 3903, after dozens of battles, large and small, the main armies of Akama and Castrum Crimnos finally clashed on the Tratos Plains. This would be the decisive confrontation between those powers, a battle where tactics meant little and retreat was unthinkable. The Tratos Plains held historical significance as the lion-hunting grounds of Gorgo, founder of Castrum Crimnos. If Akama's forces faltered here, Kremnoan morale would surge, potentially allowing them to march directly to Akama's gates. The Imperator took the field personally, raising her crown to inspire her troops and marking their armor with fiery emblems of courage. I was going to mention Gorgo for the plains, but they did it for me. The Great Battle of Tratos Plains raged for 3 full months. Throughout this period, the Imperator maintained decisive positions while dispatching Dux Gregorius Labienus to attack the Kremnoan command at any cost, and succeeded brilliantly. Sacrificing 100 warriors and suffering multiple wounds himself, he disrupted the Kremnoan command structure for just half a quint. In that brief window, the Imperator identified a tiny weakness in the Kremnoan formation that ultimately decided the outcome. She later described this as the most treacherous battle of her life. But its impact proved far-reaching. The Kremnoans, their military might severely diminished, suffered 3 consecutive defeats afterward. They were forced to swear by Nikador's honor to a 50-year peace treaty with Akuma, giving the Imperator invaluable time to fully consolidate her authority. Number 5. The Second Siege of Akuma. Time, Light Calendar 3910. Location, Akuma. Key generals, Saridra, Hycelins, Labineus, Seneca. After the first siege of Akuma, the Imperator had not yet secured absolute control over Akuma's governance. Some council elders, seeing which way the wind blew, pledged false loyalty while harboring treacherous intentions. To temporarily stabilize the political landscape, the Imperator allowed these seemingly loyal elders to retain some authority. However, these elders' members had long been plotting rebellion, secretly training private armies in Dawncloud while establishing connections with Akuma's enemies abroad. Finally, in Light Calendar 3910, they joined forces with the resurgent Corinthian armies to launch a coup, coordinating internal and external forces to try driving the Imperator in a memorial palace into a corner. Faced with this crisis, the Imperator revealed her foresight. For decades, she had gathered craftsmen from various city-states and displaced mountain dwellers, providing them with homes and workshops in the memorial market. While publicly presented as social welfare, her true intentions were strategic. When the Council of Elders remnants launched their coup, the Imperator issued a single command, and thousands of craftsmen worked through the night to construct 2 massive walls, one trapping the Elders' army in Dawncloud, and the other blocking the Corinthian forces outside the city. This brilliant tactic of besieging her would-be besiegers became known as the Second Siege of Akuma. That's insane. She built walls around them? How did they not stop her? After just 1 month under siege, the council army broke and surrendered. This time, the Imperator showed no mercy. She executed all the elders and their families, disposing of their bodies in a lake, thus completely eliminating all threats to her authority. She then turned her attention to the Corinthian forces who, growing frustrated after their long, unsuccessful siege, were becoming restless. First, she sent Labineus and Seneca to cut off their supply lines, then ordered Hycelins to launch a surprise attack against the Corinthian capital. Soon after, news reached Akuma that the Corinthian tyrant had taken his own life by jumping from a window. With their leader dead, the Corinthian army lost all will to fight and surrendered without resistance. The Second Siege of Akuma cemented the Imperator's absolute control over the city. From this point forward, her ambitions faced no opposition, whether she aspired to rule all city-states, wage war against the Titans, or even to conquer worlds beyond their own. That last battle's fun. When you're doing the fantasy warfare, it's fun to throw in just ridiculous things like that. Volume 2. The Flame Chase Journey Era. After the Second Siege of Akuma, the Imperator seized absolute control of the city and officially set her ambitions in motion. Ever since Tribios spread the prophecy of salvation, the Imperator had been plotting a crusade against the Titans to claim the Core Flames. The day Thunder Knight Seliosi proved that humans could kill a Titan by force. Peace treaty with Krymnos and the submission of the allied nations cleared the path ahead for the Imperator. Over the previous 50 years, some brave souls inspired by the prophecy also set out in pursuit of the Core Flames, but none made a mark. Then, at the end of Light Calendar 3910, the Imperator's grand flame chase journey began in force. Number 6, Siege of the Grove of Epiphany. Time, Light Calendar 3930, location, Grove of Epiphany, key generals, Apollonius, Ceridra. When the Imperator drowned Akima's elders in the lake and declared her dream of slaying the Titans, the world dismissed her as a raving despot. History had seen plenty of tyrants make wild claims in their lust for power. Even Akima's arch-rival, Castrum Krymnos, brushed it off as a cheap stunt to rally support. After that, the Imperator's actions seemed to be proof that her previous speech was just a moment of passion because, for the next 20 years, she seemed to be quietly, silently, and methodically building her forces. Spies from Landon, who escaped Akima, claimed she had gathered thousands of Chrysos heirs into a specially structured army, one strong enough to flatten an entire city-state in half a day. Fear rippled through the states, except for the ever-restless Castrum Krymnos, eager to test their blades, but bound by the peace treaty, all they could do was sharpen their weapons in silence. Light Calendar 3930, Dux Helicothist Apollonius, once a sage of the Grove and now an advisor of the Flame Chase army, was sent as an envoy to the Grove and did not return after 3 months. The Imperator then dispatched Dux Carminum, Virginia, and one split body of Dux Fatorum Tribios to the Grove. They too vanished without a trace. Rumors swirled that the 4 sages from the Lotophagist, Caprist, Nodist, and Venerationist schools hated the Imperator, imprisoning her envoys and plotting to overthrow her rule. Not long after, the Imperator herself showed up with a small retinue, oddly without the famed warriors Dux Fladorium, Dux Frigorius, and Dux Brumalis. The scholars of the Grove, seeing her seemingly weak force, lowered their guard and welcomed her beneath the branches of Circes. But the Imperator's few dozen followers weren't what they seemed. They were the first elite Flame Chase army, all Chrysos heirs trained and battle-ready. That very day, the Grove of Epiphany fell. The Imperator threw the 4 sages into prison and proudly displayed her greatest prize, the core flame of romance. She then declared her next target would be Georios, the Earth Titan, who was slumbering deep beneath the Olanus Plateau. They always take romance first and leave reason behind. That happened in the previous cycles as well, and I wonder why, because they're both there. Why not just take both? Is an Exagoras not born yet, maybe? Probably, yeah, it's probably like a prophecy thing, I would imagine. Number 7, the Olanus Skirmish. Light Calendar 3956, location Olanus Plateau, key general Ceridra. It wasn't until Amnestia's fall that the world finally realized Seleuci and Tribios hadn't sparked a mere ember, but a blazing wildfire capable of turning the skies red. Now the Imperator was pouring the lives of thousands of Chrysos heirs, including her own, into the flames, determined to melt away this apocalyptic cage. No one dared underestimate the Imperator's ambition anymore. Knowing the flame-chased tyrant had set her sights on the god of Earth, the city-states and tribes blessed by that titan banded together to defend their god. But unlike the powerless Amnestia, Georios, one of the founding titans, had the strength to level mountains and carve valleys. Also, no one knew exactly where they hid, so the Imperator was forced to lie low for years. Since Light Calendar 3950, tremors rocked all over Amphorius, as if Georios sensed their fate. In early 3955, an unprecedented quake tore through the Olanus Plateau, and Georios' battered divine form rose from the abyss. The Imperator realized the Titan would soon be out of control because of the Black Tide, so she stopped waiting. At the end of the year, she led her Flame Chase army west in a massive campaign from Akama. Early in Light Calendar 3956, they crossed the Tratos Plains into Olanus, only to be ambushed. Olanus, Odressian, Icaria, and Hondak, 4 farming city-states once under the Earth Titan's protection, united to block the Imperator's advance. These city-states had been ravaged by earthquakes and were poorly armed, their forces mostly farmers, not a match for the Flame Chase army, but the Imperator didn't come in swinging like before, unleashing brutal slaughter. Instead, she ordered her Chrysos Air elites to swiftly break the lines, focusing on wounding and disarming rather than outright killing, rendering their resistance powerless. After the battle, the Imperator didn't punish the prisoners. Instead, she left Apollonius and others behind to help with disaster relief. The Imperator declared that humanity would never forget the blessings Georios once bestowed. Precisely because of that, the revered Titan needed their loyal creations to set them free when they were dragged into endless torment by the Black Tide, take up their divine authority, and continue protecting humankind. Many hostile city-states had hoped the Imperator would be disgraced for staining her hands with innocent blood, but the Olanus campaign actually managed to largely reverse public opinion. As a prelude to the assault on Georios, the Flame Chase army came out unscathed, in both numbers and reputation, and even won over some farming city-states. It was a victory on every front. Number 8. Assault on Georios. Light Calendar 3957. Location Olanus Plateau. Key General Teravox. In Light Calendar 3957, a split body of Tribios infiltrated deep behind enemy lines and located Georios' divine form. By then, the mountain dwellers, fiercely loyal to Georios, had joined the battle. These warriors were impossible to reason with, neither moved by logic nor lofty ideals. They refused to let their creator be slain. Thus, a war was inevitable. Led by the legendary mountain breaker Geocles, the army of mountain dwellers shielded Georios from the front lines. Each one of them was born with godlike strength and equipped with unlimited top-tier gear. Their formations were nearly impenetrable. The Dromus cavalry was a nightmare for the Flame Chase army. Even Chrysos heirs with their divine blood struggled to gain ground against the stampeding beasts. The Imperator trained her soldiers to target the Dromus' eyes, legs, and riders, setting traps made of refined iron, but still couldn't tip the scales in her favor. At a critical moment, reinforcements arrived, one never before seen on the battlefield. A giant dragon named Teravox stepped slowly out of the retreating Flame Chase army and into the Dromus' ranks. Its footsteps made every Dromus tremble and kneel. Its roar and stomp crushed even the best-armed mountain dweller. With Teravox holding the front lines, the Imperator ordered Seneca to lead elite troops around the flank, capturing Geocles and other mountain dweller leaders. Ultimately, the Imperator led her battered army to the chasm above Gioros's resting place. I was hoping we'd get lore about where Teravox came from, but he was already part of her army, I guess. Isolans and several Chrysos Air warriors plunged resolutely into the abyss. After a fierce battle, only Hylissans returned in disappointment. The depths of the earth were not a good battleground for her to exercise her strength, but it was still Teravox, the great dragon, who turned the tide. Silent and alone, it dove into the chasm. The ground shook violently, and 3 days later, the Gioros's core flame finally rose back to the surface. Teravox was strong. When Gioros fell, violent earthquakes ripped through all of Amphorius. Land split apart, rivers changed course and flooded, and city-states crumbled into ruin. At the darkest hour, a roar echoed out from the abyss. Teravox, who had inherited the divine authority of Earth, tore the cracked land asunder, using its own massive body to fuse it back together. Its god-slaying act had unleashed a cataclysmic quake, but it was also the one who stopped it. After the battle, the Imperator led the remaining troops back to Akama. Soon after, she publicly honored the mysterious giant dragon Teravox with the title Dux Terrae, and declared their next target, Blanton. So he wasn't part of the army, he just showed up. Killed Gioros in single combat. And then sacrificed themselves to keep Amphorius solid. Number 9, Dolos Riverbed Melee Battle. Light Calendar 3959, location Dolos Plains, key generals Labineus Seneca. In Light Calendar 3953, the 50-year peace treaty with Krymnos and Akama came to an end. That same year, Krymnos crowned a new king, Eurypon. At the same time, Amphorius was still reeling from Gioros' final agony, but the Krymnoans didn't seize the moment for conquest. Instead, after Gioros' passing, they anchored their mobile city fortress to the east of Yanisoplis, where Talenton's core flame was located. They then stationed their troops on the Dolos Plains, claiming they were sent by the Temple of the Three Fates to protect the Titan of Law. Yanisoplis welcomed this move that played one enemy against another with open arms. The Imperator didn't panic, for she knew Krymnos was after a decisive showdown and nothing more. In Light Calendar 3959, she ordered Labineus and Seneca, old acquaintances familiar with the Krymnoan army, to lead over 300 Chrysos Air warriors and tens of thousands of mortals boldly into the Dolos River bed. When the two armies met, no formal challenge was needed. They silently drew their blades and clashed immediately. Unlike a bloody war, this battle resembled a grand Krymnos festival, with both sides holding back and suffering few casualties. This was a stark departure from Krymnoan's usual valorous death before glorious return ethos. The reason behind this was that their new king, Eurypon, was no ordinary ruler. A Chrysos heir himself, he easily dominated the Krymnos festival, showing unmatched courage and a bold vision for reform. The new queen, Gorgo, was equally formidable, matching Eurypon blow for blow and sharing his doubts about old traditions. Under their leadership, Kremnoans, once fixated solely on blood and glory, began to take a broader view of the world's fate. In the battle at the Dolos riverbed, Eurypon and Gorgo personally took the field, clashing evenly against Labineus and Seneca. After the fight, the four retired to their tents. What they discussed remains a mystery. Soon after, Kremnos announced a full withdrawal. Yanisopoulos, sensing impending disaster, was about to issue a divine edict calling on allied forces to quell the threat when the Flamechase army suddenly appeared at their gates. While Labineus and Seneca held the Kremnoan army at bay, the Imperator and Hyselins led the remaining 200 Chrysos heirs on a daring trek across the eastern ridges of the Kampa Mountains that cut off Akama from Yanisopoulos, and struck directly at the doors of the Temple of the Three Fates. Number 10, Siege of Yanisopoulos. Light calendar 3960, location Yanisopoulos, key general Saridra. After linking up with Labineus and Seneca's main forces, the Imperator sent envoys into the city to demand surrender, while she set up camp outside Yanisopoulos and held position. When the city refused to surrender, the Imperator deployed troops to guard all key roads, cutting off any external reinforcements. She then pressured the city relentlessly, claiming the Kremnoan army was also eyeing the tripartite prophecy and inviting Yanisopoulos to accept Akama's protection. But the offer was turned down again. In the end, the Imperator chose to initiate a secret negotiation, the details of which no one knows. Legend says this secret talk was aided by the famed 300 rogues of Dolos, led by the Dolosian native Cyphera, the 97th of the 300 rogues. Oh, that's different. Wait. Led by the Dolosian native Cyphera, the 97th of the 300 rogues, Bladed Black Velvet Ferrum joined the cause. No, never mind. Ferrum spent 3 days digging a secret tunnel based on an escape route revealed by Tribios that led straight into the chamber where the Scale of Justice was located. Saridra herself led a small team, including Dux Gladorium, through the tunnel and into the city, where they unexpectedly ran into several stubborn priests. And that's where this whole update starts, story-wise. So it's actually, we started right at the Siege of Yanisopoulos. I got confused by the sentence there. I thought they were saying Cyphera was the 97th rogue, but she's not. She's supposed to be the 301st. There's a lot of commas in that. But it was saying Bladed Black Velvet Ferrum was the 97th. That was a neat one. I really like... I'm a big fan of like the military history stuff, so that was cool. Also, once again, very deja vu to something I wrote. Next, we've got Palace of Plenty's Sigh. The next 4, as you can see, they don't say new on them, so I've already read them. And Chalice of Plenty's Sigh, and then one after that, Pilgrim's Notes, are pretty much the same story it feels like, and both of those are pretty much the same as the previous book, the one that was living in my head for a long time, the Journal of a Styxian Refugee. All three of those are pretty much, to me, feel like they're the same story. Although these two new ones are perhaps from the new cycle, whereas the other one is from the old cycle, right? So different, slightly different, like, event, like versions of the same event, rather. More so Chalice of Plenty than Pilgrim's Note. But Chalice of Plenty Sai, a journal by a devout follower of Fugusa, recording a fragment of Styxia's past. Month of Joy, Day 3. Finally, Styxia. This city surpasses all my expectations in beauty. The sea appears as a mesmerizing blend of honey and sapphire, sparkling brilliantly in the sunlight. I'm grateful I accepted the High Priest's invitation to assist with the temple rituals. Accommodations have been arranged perfectly, right by the seashore. Every night I hear waves breaking against the shore, sounding like Fugusa's whispers in my ears. The full moon ceremony will be held tomorrow, and I hope to receive the Ocean Titan's blessing. Month of Joy, Day 5. It's late, but I must record everything I saw today. The full moon ceremony far exceeded my expectations. The High Priest had mentioned that rituals in Styxia differ from those in Akama, with fewer rules and more fervor, and this proved absolutely true. As night fell, hundreds of lights illuminated the sea of honey brew hues. People placed specially crafted lanterns in the water, which currents carried toward the deep ocean. They say these lights guide Fugusa's gaze, allowing her to witness our devotion. People began drinking, not in small sips but great gulps. The honey brew shimmered with a golden glow and burned like fire down the throat. I drank some too, and then everything felt like a blur. I remember jumping into the sea, dancing in the shallows with everyone. I recall seeing humans dancing with sea creatures, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw a sea siren. Perhaps it was just the brew's effects. I have a vague recollection of strange music from the distant sea, a sound blending harp notes with ocean waves. The melody was bewitching, yet carried a hint of sorrow, as if calling out to something. Month of Joy, Day 9. The sea today is remarkably calm, a perfect mirror reflecting the sky above. The High Priest says this is a positive omen, that Fugusa is watching over us. I heard that mysterious music again last night, more distinctly this time. No one could explain what it was. They're all too absorbed in their festivities. The melody seemed to tell a story of loneliness and betrayal. I found myself strangely drawn to it, almost wanting to dive underwater to seek its source. Duties at the temple are simple, mainly preparing offerings and brewing sacred water. The High Priest taught me how to transform ordinary seawater into tears of Fugusa, special holy water said to heal spiritual wounds. She warned me never to taste it, saying, "It is not meant for mortal lips." Month of Everday, Day 1. Something changed today. People reported seeing ripples on the sea, not ordinary waves, but disturbances, as though the surface of the water had been mutilated by something. People in the streets seem increasingly frenzied, with taverns operating all day and night. When I asked the High Priest if this was normal, she just smiled and said Fugusa's followers have always become more active during the month of Everday, but I sense there's more than meets the eye. Tonight, the music sounds clearer than ever before. I believe it must be Hycelin's, legendary Chrysos air songstress. Ancient tales say she was once a sea siren who now plays alone in the ocean depths, waiting for her departed companions to return. The profound sorrow in that music is almost suffocating. Month of Everyday, Day 7. I have started sleepwalking today. I woke to myself standing at the beach, clothes drenched with salt water on my lips. Most disturbing still, I remember my dream. I followed that haunting music into the sea and discovered a stage. It was an underwater stage, surrounded by seated figures, all motionless as if frozen in time. At the center stood a woman with a harp, playing that mournful melody. She turned to me and spoke, but I couldn't hear her words. Then I awoke with a start. People in the city grow fewer each day, not because they're leaving, but because they're vanishing. They joined the nightly celebrations and never returned. When I asked the high priest about this, he simply said they had returned to Fagusa's embrace. Strangely, I'm reminded of an old nursery rhyme. Fagusa's chalice, filled with tears of old, those who drink see home, never more return. Month of Freedom, Day 4. The city celebrations have reached the peak of their feverish intensity. People have stopped working and thinking. They only drink, dance, and seek pleasure, as if tomorrow were the last day of the world. Today I ventured underwater, seeking the music's source. The submerged world was breathtaking. I discovered ancient structures, seemingly the ruins of an underwater city. This must be the dwelling of the sea sirens that legends speak of, the place of eternal celebration Fagusa promised them. Now only ruins remain, accompanied by that solitary, mournful song. Month of Strife, Day 1. I've decided to leave Styxia. The madness here has become unbearable. The people are changing into something less human and more like... Before leaving, the high priest gave me a small vial containing a glowing liquid. It's the siren's tear, she said. If you hear the song calling to you, drink this. You'll discover this truth you seek. I don't know if I'll ever find the courage to drink it, but I know that as long as Hysolens continues to sing, Fagusa's legacy lives on. Perhaps someday the world will find balance again, and the chalice of plenty will overflow, not with tears, but with joy. This is my final journal entry from Styxia. May Fagusa bless all who drink, and may Hysolens' melody guide lost souls home. Yeah, so if you read the Refugee Styxia one, this is very beat for beat similar. It's just slightly different, because I guess it's a different cycle, right? But in the Refugee one, it's like a family who's noticing everything's happening, where people are starting to just go crazy and party all the time and start transforming and start vanishing and start sleepwalking, right? All that stuff was happening. And this one, it's a guy who's been invited to Styxia and then sees all this start happening, and he himself also starts sleepwalking. This time, though, we name the mysterious person in the water, presumably is Hysolens. As I was figuring from before, this time they name it outright. So the mysterious person before is presumably still Hysolens, right? Although no mention of her trying to be like, if you hear my song, you're protected. And in the Refugee one, it ends with the guy having left Styxia pulls out a glass vial containing water, containing holy water. And in this one, this character was given it specifically, but they both were left Styxia containing a small vial of the water. And then we have Pilgrim's Notes, a pilgrim's personal notebook. Some of the handwriting has been blurred by seawater, rendering its full text illegible. Page 1. It's full moon tonight. While standing on the terrace of the baths, praying to Fagusa, I heard unusual music coming from the sea. Not the gentle whisper of waves or festive sounds, but a deep, distant melody that seemed to rise from the ocean depths. The priests claim it's merely the wind's voice, but I know Fagusa is calling to me. Tomorrow I shall travel to the warbling shores, closer to the music's source. Page 2. I've been in Styxia for 2 days now. At night, while others immerse themselves in drunken reverie, I visit the shore alone. The music sounds clearer here than in Akama, like a sorrowful narrative poetry telling forgotten histories and unkept promises. I asked local fishermen who confirmed an ancient temple exists underwater, but no one can reach it. They say those who aren't Fagusa's devoted followers will be driven mad if they hear the underwater music, jumping into the sea and never to return. They warned me against pursuing that sound. But they don't understand. The music brings me not madness, but revelation. Page 5. I visited the temple today. The high priest, seemingly aware of my intention, gave me a special brew, saying it would allow me to breathe underwater. She warned me that if I was determined to journey to the ocean floor, I must accept that it's a one-way path from which there is no return. Fagusa's song calls to those with the most sensitive spirits, the priest said. There you will witness eternity. I'm ready. I'll take this journal with me to record my experiences until the end of this path. Wait. Can a journal breathe underwater? No, I mean, is it waterproof? I'll check with the priest tomorrow. Page 8. I drank the brew, and my journal, having been treated, now becomes waterproof. The liquid has a strange taste. After drinking it, I felt a sharp pain in my stomach, followed by an unusual sense of comfort. I jumped into the water and found I could actually breathe like a fish. The underwater world is more magnificent than I imagined. Strange sea creatures swim around me, completely indifferent to my presence, as if I belonged among them. The light creates curious patterns in the water, like invisible guidance, and the music grows increasingly clear. I begin to descend, moving toward the music's source. Page 15. I have completely lost track of time. I can't tell which quint it is, or even which day. Underwater light changes in ways completely different from the surface world. I have discovered the entrance, a massive underwater archway adorned with carvings of Fagusa and her Titankins. Beyond lies a long corridor leading deeper. The corridor walls are covered with runes and murals telling the sea siren's story. I see depictions of Helectra leaping into the chalice and images of Fagusa's tears mingling with the black tide. The music now sounds perfectly clear, guiding me forward. Page 20. It feels like an eternity has passed, as if seawater has seeped from my ears into my mind. I try to drain the water, but that makes no sense since I'm surrounded by water. How could I possibly clear my ears here? I have lost all sense of time. I just keep swimming and swimming. After passing through countless corridors, I've finally reached a magnificent domed hall. The scene is incredible. Water currents suspended in midair form elegant curves, massive chandeliers of shells and coral emitting soft light. Circular seats filled with audiences, humans, sea sirens, and creatures I cannot identify, all completely motionless like statues. In the hall center, on a circular stage, hang several water curtains. Though my vision is obscured, I glimpse at what seems to be a woman's figure. Is she holding a violin, or seated in a chair? I can't tell. All I know for certain is that she's playing that sorrowful melody that's been calling to me. I stand motionless at the doorway, afraid to break the spell, just silently listening to her music. Age unknown. I have stayed to witness the ceremony since the performance continues without end. Endless memories dwell within the music. As the melody flows, ancient visions unfold before me. Sea sirens binding themselves to Fugusa, the black tide's first devastating invasion. Electra plunging into the sacred chalice, and the underwater kingdom falling to betrayal and destruction. More than simple melody, this is time crystallized, a history resurfacing, or refusing rather, to fade into oblivion. From my front row seat, something unexpected happens. My form also begins to crystallize, integrating into this eternal moment. While my limbs stiffen, my thoughts sharpen with unprecedented clarity, and the truth dawns on me. Everyone around me, we are all pilgrims drawn by the music, now eternal witnesses to history frozen in time. But I embrace this destiny without regret. In this place, time loses all meaning. Joy and sorrow dissolve into perfect, endless calm. Here I'll remain, forever listening to this final melody, awaiting the true guardian who can break our endless cycle. This may well be my final entry. If anyone finds these pages, know that deep beneath the waves exists an eternal performer with her audience, all waiting for prophecies to be fulfilled and promises that time will never honor. O Fugusa, will anyone hear our prayers? Will someone bring us release, or are we destined to wait forever in this frozen moment? The remaining pages have been damaged by seawater, but one line remains visible on the final page. I see a light, there in the distance. Is it dawn breaking, or just another false hope? So that one could be... That one could be related to the fall of Styxia, but also the ending especially does make me think that maybe it is related to the present story where Hycelands is waiting for us to show up as part of the prophecy so that while she's imprisoning Lygus, right? I don't know though, because I don't know the timeline of when, like, at this guy's writing, he's still a person who's still living in Akama. Akama's still fine. Styxia is still fine, because there's a priest there. So it's before the fall of Styxia. So actually, I don't think it necessarily can be, because I would assume Styxia would have already fallen long before this point. But the ending also does really feel like it's talking about us, right? So I really don't know the exact timeline of what reference of events this is referring to. Next up we have Serva's letter. A letter from Serva, Seneca's mother, sent from the Twilight Courtyard, sharing recent news from home. My dearest Seneca, it feels like forever since I last heard from you. Word has reached me that you'll soon set off to challenge the Ocean Titan. Now, one battle barely ends before the next begins. You're working yourself too hard. The month of Everday is almost upon us, and the annual Sky Rite will soon begin. Little Halkos has just turned 8 and is eagerly readying himself for the rite. Sometimes I see flashes of your younger self in him. Like you, he's growing up surrounded by the heroic legends of Lady Celiosi, sharing your diligence and work ethic. Yet while our family's hardships taught you life's cruel uncertainties, and perhaps made you too resolute, your protection ensures that little Halkos and the other stray children recently welcomed into our courtyard need not face the same bitter lessons. The evening before I wrote this letter, little Halkos fell asleep to tales of your adventures. Just before his eyes closed, he leaned close and whispered that unlike Lady Celiosi, who dwells in the distant clouds, you are more like the sky itself, watching over all. I couldn't sleep that night, with my mind returning to those desperate times our tribe faced over a decade ago. My heart is filled with guilt and regret. I remember us going 5 days without a meal, and how wandering soldiers would claim our friends. Back then, as you listened to stories of the sky hero, you would whisper, "I will return to the sky and become it." Oh, you were always a headstrong girl. Never blessed with a priest's intuition or a warrior's instinct, but what you had was simply a heart that refused to bow to destiny. I can't count the scars that earned you your current strength and standing, scars you've likely forgotten. The whole world knows how demanding service to the Imperator can be, yet every letter you send has your penman conceal your weariness, filling the page with only cheer and kindness. Seneca, your iron will isn't a weakness. But it isn't always a strength either. The burden it places on you, is this why honey brew has become your only comfort? Well, look at me going on and on. Right back to the courtyard soon, won't you? Everyone misses you, and really you ought to learn how to write your own letters. Always having Virginia pen them for you must be terribly inconvenient for the poor girl. Serva, Twilight Courtyard. I'm glad after even reading that before, that last paragraph for some reason messes me up. I don't know why. This got me thinking, because this introduced the fact that Seneca is from Twilight Courtyard. They mention it in the side quest that we ended up doing on stream. But before this point, I didn't realize that. And I was wondering if she was mentioned in a previous cycle regarding like Hyacinth's family. Because they might be related. Because Hyacinth met 3 ancestors, and I don't remember if one was Seneca or not. It would be neat if it was. I don't know if I can look that up. I could dig through the event, like the character names and like the quest dialogue, but that'd take too long, so. Next, we have To Know Something Through Sweets, a study of honey brew and personality. A stone tablet near the brewing area that contains some fun facts about honey brew. Written in wobbly handwriting, seems like the author was quite tipsy at the time. Preface: honey brew tastes great, and anyone who likes it is a good person. But good people come in many varieties, so let's just see how good they really are. Preface 2. Why am I writing this? Because I'm a scholar and I'm happy right now. Everything logically makes sense. And no, I'm not drunk, not at all. By flavor. Grape, original honey brew. A favorite of those sky folk. I figured they insist on pure honey brew because there's no such thing in the sky to begin with. After asking around, it turns out plenty of folks are still loyal to the original taste. There sure are a lot of old schoolers. Pomegranate, sanguine honey brew. A well-known fact, a honey brew of pomegranate flavor contains 0 grapes. Another fact everyone knows, if someone claims to prefer pomegranate honey brew, especially those who use the word nostalgia, don't mess with them. You probably don't stand a chance fighting them. Because they'd be probably from Castrum Crymnos. Wheat, Chrysos, honey, brew. None of us can taste celestial ambrosia or the dew of divine blood. But that heroic golden color still makes everyone crave a sip. Chrysos honey brew is a very popular flavor, representing people's hopes for the future. Hahaha. The above is total advertising nonsense, but I actually like this flavor too. Mint, herbal honey brew. In all of Amphorius, only those from the Grove would order this kind of honey brew. Its flavor is as offensive as their research topics. They love to argue and question everything until they've unveiled everything. But when trouble comes knocking, they're exactly who you need. Shame that hardly anyone orders this anymore since that sharp-tongued professor chose to become stone. So this was written post Anaxagoras becoming a philosopher's stone? Give me anything awful, which is crossed out. These people came to talk. They don't like honey brew at all. Feel free to kick them out. The great Fugusa would show you, or would shower you with praise. By concentration. Why did I even start this section? The concentration of Fugusa's honey brew is all randomized, and Lady Heisland's hasn't changed that tradition. But since I've begun, I might as well finish it. The randomness means I never judge someone based on which strength they prefer. And that explains the inconsistency in the story, where everyone's like, people are like, it's not alcoholic, and then everyone's getting drunk. It's because it's random. So sometimes, or actually a lot of times, it is alcoholic, but sometimes it's not. Very light, below 10% intoxication. Only absolute cowards drink this watery trash of a honey brew. That's scratched out. Gentle on the palate and universally adored, when the ocean's power threatens to erupt from your stomach up to your mouth, everyone prays their next bottle is of this strength. Those who stand by this concentration are typically welcoming, like total pushovers, like those Outworlders newly enlisted soldiers. Though ironically, they're all over 1,000 years old now. Light, 10% to 20% intoxication. Ah, my personal favorite. Want to know how fans of this strength are like? Just look at me. Cheerful, full of curiosity, perfect long-term companion material, with occasional mood swings as our only drawback. I especially recommend it with cotton flavor. Medium, 20% to 35% intoxication. Fans of this strength are, simply put, your average people. Nothing makes them happier than huddling together, knocking back drink after drink. Gulp. Ah, this brew has the perfect punch. All praise to Fagusa. Thinking about it, those two inseparable drunks also prefer this strength. I can never get those Ducks titles right. Strong, 30% to 50% intoxication. I don't get it, and I don't want to. Very strong, above 50% intoxication. Oh, Ducks Goldweaver, I just miss your masterful skills. Folks who favor this strength have typically either racked up impressive battlefield achievements or bear significant scars, mental or physical. Or perhaps they were simply born with exceptional resilience. I recommend making friends with these people. The stories they tell could drown me. Sober brew, non-intoxicating beverage that replicates the flavor only. I nearly forgot about this. Legend tells that long ago a honey brew manager crafted this specially for the child hostage Holy Maiden, only to discover the whole thing was a misunderstanding. They planned to seal it away forever, but someone discovered it and repurposed it as a honey brew substitute. Can't exactly march into battle intoxicated, can you? It's all gone now. Production was already limited, and a cat somehow consumed the entire stock before our revelry began. I really wish I could have tried it. Yeah, actually, I forgot that it was... So I retract my statement. That it's random, the intoxication level is random, but the sober one, the non-alcoholic one, isn't actually part of the traditional drink, so... Although this was written pretty recently, so maybe when we were drinking it, it still exists. And it doesn't anymore. I assume by cat they mean Cypher? Unsure. But I'm just gonna go with that it still existed. Afterword, goodness, by Heislands above. I have spent 6 hours and 3 quints on this tablet journal, and I'm completely sober now. What absolute drivel have I written here? Ah well, since everyone's drunk and the revelry never ends, nobody will care about my scribblings. I'll just leave this here for entertainment. Oh, Heislands above, what utter gibberish have I recorded? I need another bottle immediately. I'm done here. And now on to the last 3 I've not read. This next one, I'm very curious by the title. Pollux' Underworld Postcard. A postcard from an acquaintance in another realm, seemingly carved onto a dragon scale. At the bottom is a long, withered antilla. And this is found right next to the tomb, the monument tomb for all the Chrysos heirs. Oh, it is addressed to us. Okay. Then I guess they left it for us there. That does make sense. Okay. Dear Mr. Trailblazer, I find myself unsure how to address you given that we've never actually met in this recurrence. Miss Cyrene once joked that in this recurrence you owe me a hug. I found it quite embarrassing at first, but after descending into the nether realm and enduring the long passage of time, I've begun to envy the version of myself who will eventually meet you, and started hoping that silly little debt might actually get paid after all. Oh, forgive me for my sentimentality. The nether realm is more beautiful than I imagined, yet also more desolate. I have reunited with my sister Polixia here, alongside countless faces both known and unknown, like the hundreds of heroes lost during the first flame chase. Their minds fragmented, yet their insignia still brilliantly shining. Or Lady Aglaia, who gifted me a nymph companion before silently fading into the flower fields. I was getting Polixia and Pollux. I thought Pollux was Polixia, so I was like, it's a postcard by the sister, which is weird, but no, it's not. Like, I knew it was Castoris when it started, but the name, I was mixing up the names, so... Oh. Okay. Not long after, Lady Tribby depleted her divine power to create a passage between Styxia and the Vortex of Genesis, which Hyselin maintained with her power. Before departing, Tribby entrusted me with guarding this passage, and over countless years, I witnessed from the Netherrealm as my companions perished one after another, some never even reaching here, such as Mighty, who shattered his soul into 5 pieces, or Professor Anaxagoras, who transmuted himself into a Philosopher's Stone. Finally, when not a single human being remained alive in Amphorius, Hyselins had to concentrate all her divine power within Styxia's revelry, the Seal Ligus. Without the ocean's power, the passage connecting Styxia, the Vortex of Genesis, began disintegrating, and then I made my final decision to assume the form of Netherwing's corpse and command the waters of the River Souls to preserve that passage. Before becoming Netherwing, I racked my mind thinking what I might leave for you, but I could hardly expect to receive anyone's embrace as Netherwing. In a flash of recollection, I remembered Miss Cyrene once secretly told me that you had wished for me to send you a nether postcard from the underworld in the previous recurrence. I do remember that now. Okay, this is pretty cute. So while my body can still hold a pen, I've written this letter for you and instructed the flourishing Antilla flowers to carry it from the nether realm, waiting for you to find it. Someday, when you travel that passage to the Vortex of Genesis, perhaps you'll discover this nether postcard among the Antilla flowers, or perhaps by then I will have expended all my power and fallen into deep slumber with all the Antilla flowers long withered. But this is certainly not our last goodbye. Should you fulfill your destiny as a deliverer, then in that bright new world I promise I'll find the courage to ask you for an embrace I've waited for millennia too long. Castoris. We'll check. I don't think there's any flowers near where this is found, but it would have been a nice touch if there was some dried, dead flowers around it. I don't believe there is, though. Whispers from the Deep. A stone tablet sunken deep in the ocean, inscribed in golden ink with elegant handwriting. weaving countless threads of thoughts for someone from the writer's past. To a certain fish lurking beneath the waves. It's been almost 50 years since that tsunami swallowed you whole. Time, it seems, rushes by even faster than raging ocean waters. Since you've been gone, I've grown fond of bathing, perhaps because the Memorial Palace has gained a certain fragrance now without any swimming fish. I now understand why a certain someone loved swimming beneath the waves. The flowing waters do wash away your weariness and concerns. Sadly, certain melodious sounds no longer grace my ears. It's your fault for always humming tunes beside me, making it impossible to appreciate other singers' performances. What a crime to deprive the demigod of romance of enjoying the beauty of music. I wonder when you'll ever make proper amends. Recently, though, I've detected a familiar fishy aroma in the pool. I can tell your longing as a demigod has been quietly visiting this place, hasn't it? You obstinate fish. If you miss me so much, why not leave those desolate, dead waters and meet me again? I've perfected the divine power of romance, and my creations now resist both ocean and blade. But I've yet to find worthy guests to wear them. Perhaps only someone with your grace could truly honor a demigod's work. I've woven lots and lots of new garments, all hidden in my mansion's secret chamber. You know the one. Should you ever return to Akama, be sure to claim them. These clothes weren't designed for you, but I'd rather see them burn to cinders than grace the bodies of the hideous and cruel. Honestly, I don't know if you'll ever see this letter. The previous 49 received no response. Perhaps I'm using the wrong delivery method. Your priest claimed that sinking a teleslate into Styxia's depth would allow their demigod to sense it. Perhaps I should follow the Imperator's example and sentence that priest to the depths for deceiving royalty, offering her to you and your fish. But you've never had a taste for mortal blood, always cleaning away crimson stains after each killing, so I'll spare her life. I must confess, even as the curse erodes my emotions, I cannot match the Imperator's decisiveness in permanently silencing defiant subjects. I still sense people's anguish during catastrophes through the golden threads, and feel the sorrow flowing through their hearts. The guests from beyond the sky mentioned this compassion had once trapped another version of me in misfortune, which both troubles and pleases me. Even after 1,000 years, I could never become another Imperator, nor a cold divine statue. Today, both the military and civilians scrutinize my every move. Their collective gaze upon a leader burns more intensely than even that upon a demigod, and I can barely escape its scorching heat. Only in my private bath, before my teacher's smile, and in these letters to you, which may never be read, can I remove the burden of my position and breathe freely, if only briefly. At times, the golden threads capture the tremors of destiny, whispering to me about the end of fate, that end that now draws near. Though bound by the shackles of law, the Theorios wields power far beyond any titan. Over the past 5 decades, as his strength has waxed, ours has waned. A great battle approaches, and with it, a great defeat. Yet I remain hopeful, for that priest of time brought promises. She and those who come after her will shoulder the burdens to come. Heroes fighting to their last breath will hold back the tide of misfortune. The deliverer, though gone on a journey, shall return to herald our ultimate victory. I choose to believe her promises, and I demand that you take up a new duty in the future and embark on a new journey. May my selfish request stand in place of a royal decree, guiding a lost fish toward new waters. Though I've said all of this, I shouldn't mourn what fate has decided. Yet the waters within my heart still stir with regret. If only we could enjoy one last feast together in these peaceful yet passing days. If only I could receive one final lesson in swordsmanship from you in the city you've defended. If only I could whisper one last word of wisdom to you the night before you depart for war. If only I could hear you sing once more in whatever future awaits us. If only fate would be so kind. Aglaya. Yeah, they really were quite close, huh? Interesting. So pretty much after, even though a lot of history changed in this cycle, the future Akuma pretty much the same. Like, she comes in charge, golden threads everywhere. People are scrutinizing her, right? That all pretty much stays the same. And last, Imperator's Order, the Cleaning List. The secret orders given to the cleaners after their conversion to the Imperator. The assassins repay sins with daggers, painting the Imperator's majesty in blood. To Darius, disciple of Canis, you and your companions, guilty of attempted regicide, rightfully deserve beheading and burial beneath the lake at Dawn Cloud. However, as the Imperator is destined to govern the universe with my heart as vast as heaven and earth, I specially permit you atonement through service, demonstrating my fairness. By law, I command you to purge all enemies of the Imperator and Akuma. Those defying the Imperator shall have their flesh returned to filth, and their souls eternally trapped in the River of Souls. Yet, constrained by alliance treaties, Akuma cannot simply administer justice. Thus, I order you, criminals, to cleanse these sins from the shadows under this decree. Canis, original cleaner commander. Crime, attempted assassination of the Imperator, guilty of regicide. Sentence, execution. Regicide deserves dismemberment into 30 million pieces and turned into animal feed, transforming body and soul into fetid fertilizer. However, as the prophesized one approaches, her life shall be offered as tribute, and mercy shall be shown by preserving her body intact. How would you dismember someone into 30 million pieces? How would you even know? Who's gonna count that? To the Imperator, deed is done outside Akuma City. Her throat was slit, and the body transported to your camp in Yanisopolis. I, Darius, still will now take the name Canis. Know that the Cleaner's blades will forever serve you in the laws of Akuma. To Canis, I acknowledge your loyalty. As a reward, you shall receive golden blood offered by the Dux Gladiorium. Bathe your weapons in seawater mixed with this blood to forge blades capable of challenging those with divine power. Remember, you remain criminals under my pardon. Do not disappoint me or my Gladius. Afranius, Landon Alliance Representative. Crime. Conspiring with enemy states, guilty of high treason. Sentence. Execution. All property to be confiscated by Akama. Family reduced to slaves. By Alliance law, the city of Landon is to be fined 30 million balance coins. Should they refuse, Landon elders would share his crimes and join the cleaning list. To the Imperator. I have executed his 3 servants in the pool, with Dux Gladiorium personally beheading Afranius and leaving the corpse at the memorial palace. The head shall be hanged at the city gates for 7 days, a testament to your imperial might. To Canis. 7 days is far too short. Hang it until it disintegrates into dust. So that's the guy we actually saw get assassinated. Malian, king of Paphos. Crime: refusing to surrender military authority and war taxes, neglecting alliance obligations, delaying the Flame Chase campaign, guilty of insubordination. Sentence: execution. Ensure a gruesome death by your daggers to demonstrate the Imperator's determination to all other states. To the Imperator. I led 7 cleaners into Paphos Palace, killing Malian in his bath chamber, ensuring a horrific appearance with blunt weapons. Palace guards arrived afterward, forcing our counterattack, eliminating all guards at the cost of 3 cleaners. However, the Paphos royal family has accused you of murder, causing violent reactions throughout the city. The Paphos people were already outraged over the killing of Amnestia, and riots may erupt after this incident. To Canis. As you already know, this action was to demonstrate the Imperator's determination. When defiant nobles face death, what chance do common soldiers and citizens have? I will soon visit Paphos personally. They must offer their army, wealth, and citizens complete submission. Should even one element be missing, the entire city of Paphos shall join Amnestia as mere ashes in the flames. Interesting that she writes to this assassin, like, kind of detailed about her future plans. I don't feel like that, like, I feel like she'd just be like, good job, okay, bye. Like, okay, well, if that's gonna happen, I guess I'll go, like, reduce the whole city to ashes. Does the assassin need to know that, or even care to know that? 74 members of the Yannisopolis Priest Order. Crime: propagating false prophecies in Yannis's name, denying the world beyond the sky, obstructing the Flame Chase journey, guilty of deceiving both ruler and subjects. Sentence: execute the High Priest during a ritual ceremony, destroying their credibility and influence. Other priests may avoid the cleaning if they cut off their own tongues in repentance. To the Imperator. Cleaners shot arrows through High Priest Vesta's chest during Yannisopolis' passage ceremony. Followers scattered in terror, believing this to be divine punishment for priests defying sacred will. The remaining 73 priests severed their own tongues in penance, though among them were elderly and weak individuals, and 7 of them perished from the ordeal. To Canis. Though they were sinners, their crimes do not deserve death. In the Imperator's name, compensate the families of the 7 deceased with 40,000 balance coins. If they have children, escort them to Akama to be properly cared for. Well, that's nice of her. If it was 30,000, I was gonna say she likes the number 3. Hey, thanks for the subscription. Dux Ironclad, Lucitus, or Lucitus. Dux Ironclad Lucitus, commander of the 3rd Legion. Crime: defying the Imperator's battle orders, refusing to surrender battle standards to Akama, deserting before campaign launch, guilty of battlefield cowardice. Sentence. In recognition to the previous battle accomplishments, the death penalty was waived. However, all golden-blooded individuals must submit to the Imperator to prevent another Crisis War catastrophe. According to military law, sever his tendons to neutralize his divine power, strip his armor, and flog him repeatedly until a personal confession of guilt. Wow. To the Imperator. After fierce combat, we lost 3 cleaners, while Duck's Ironclad was captured after exhausting his power. We severed the tendons in his 4 limbs with a golden dagger. Despite 3 days of flogging that exposed his bones, the criminal refused to submit, even announcing you as a tyrannical ruler. One cleaner, enraged by this, executed him, sending him to the River of Souls to repent instead. To Canis. Absurd. Duck's Ironclad serves the Imperator. However grave his crimes, no one but the Imperator has the right to judge him. Detain the executor at once and bring them to Akama. For the offense of exceeding their authority, the Imperator shall carry out punishment by burning them to death. If this crime of transgression happens again, the gladius shall fall upon you cleaners as well, condemning you to eternal damnation. Brutal. That's like some of the most brutal stuff in the whole game. It really shows how brutal Saridra can be. I mean, she is definitely a tyrant, but that is some brutal stuff. But she also, it's interesting because it's like there's a slight contrast of she never likes people going beyond her authority. So we've seen it before, like someone does something, I think she's mentioned like extrajudicial execution before, and it's like, well, that person's going to be in trouble. Even though I was having this guy brutally tortured, how dare you kill him? For breaking that law as well. She is order, she is the demigod of law, so she is very strict with the laws. And that is all 8 books for the new update. Let's go check the flowers just to make sure. I don't think they were there, but maybe. Up here, I think. Yeah, no. I mean, there's like some blue flower thing, but that's not the Antillas, I don't think. Unless it is. I don't remember what the Antillas look like. We can't go back to the Nether Realm, so...
Nice.
You type in Antilla, and Castories actually comes up. That's some of the first things. Based on the other pictures I'm getting, no. They are not Antillas. I don't think so.
Nice.
But yes, there you go. All 8 books, 3.5. I think that went well. I think I'll continue this. If you want the locations to any of these books, there is a video on the YouTubes. They went by fast. They went by pretty fast today. But I figured this stream probably wouldn't be a normal full-length stream. And I don't intend for these streams to ever be that way, but some of them will probably be even longer depending on how long these books are. But these streams are just going to be reading dreams. So that is all for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more. But until then, thank you all for watching. And may the sands of time treat you well.